For centuries, the legend of the Yeti, the abominable snowman, had gripped the imaginations of mountaineers, villagers, and adventurers alike. Towering footprints in the snow, strange howls in the dead of night, and fleeting, shadowy glimpses had cemented the Yeti's place as one of the greatest mysteries of the Himalayas. Expeditions were launched, fortunes were spent, lives were risked, and yet the truth remained stubbornly out of reach. Until now. It began with Dr. Elena Verma, a renowned but somewhat controversial biologist with a stubborn streak that had driven her to the most inhospitable places on Earth. Unlike many of her peers who had dismissed the Yeti as folklore or misidentification, Elena believed there was something out there worth investigating. She wasn't driven by fame or fortune. She was driven by the gnawing sense that a piece of the natural world had eluded scientific classification. In early spring, Elena assembled a small, discreet team and set out for the eastern Himalayas, specifically a secluded region near the border of Nepal and Bhutan, where recent reports had surfaced. Local villagers spoke in hushed tones about a white-furred creature seen moving through the mists. Cattle had gone missing, strange markings had been found clawed into trees, and there were whispers of old gods awakened. Elena's team included Samir, a seasoned tracker who grew up in the mountain villages, Dr. Paul Ackerman, a geneticist with an obsession for cryptid DNA, and Lamo, a Sherpa who claimed to have once seen the Yeti himself. They carried minimal gear, choosing to remain light and mobile, and moved carefully through the unforgiving terrain. The first week yielded little more than cold nights, frostbite threats, and the ever-present sense of being watched. One night, as a thick fog rolled into camp, they heard it, a low, guttural sound, somewhere between a growl and a howl. It resonated through the valley, setting the hair on the backs of their necks on end. Lamo pointed towards the ridgeline, where something massive and pale moved swiftly through the mist. The team scrambled after it, careful to maintain a respectful distance. For hours they tracked the creature, spotting flashes of fur and the occasional broken branch. Finally, they found it. A footprint, nearly twice the size of a human's, embedded in the snowy earth. Elena carefully placed a sterile cloth over it, taking an impression and scraping away snow to recover possible hair or skin samples. Paul, his hands shaking with excitement, immediately began prepping the samples for preservation. The next morning, the team returned to the village to access better lab equipment they had arranged at a remote outpost. Under the microscope, Paul found something astonishing. The hair samples didn't match any known species exactly. They were close to bear DNA, but with anomalies that defied easy classification. It was as though something ancient, something that had diverged from known bear species tens of thousands of years ago, had survived in these mountains undetected. Elena refused to make any premature announcements. They needed proof. Photographs, video, clear and undeniable evidence. 3 nights later, they got their chance. Setting up a bait trap with meat and using night vision cameras, they caught footage of the creature. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with dense, off-white fur. It walked on 2 legs most of the time but occasionally dropped to all 4s for speed. Its face, caught briefly on camera, was both bear-like and eerily human in its expressions. The team watched the footage over and over in stunned silence. Word leaked, as it inevitably would, and soon a secondary team of opportunists, hunters and thrill-seekers, arrived. Tensions ran high as Elena tried to protect the creature from being harmed. She knew that if the wider world found out too soon, the Yeti would be hunted to extinction before it was even properly understood. But fate had other plans. One morning, a gunshot rang through the valley. Elena, Samir, and Lamo rushed toward the sound, fearing the worst. They found one of the hunters, a man named Briggs, crumpled on the ground, his face a mask of terror. He was alive, but barely coherent, muttering about the eyes and the voice. He claimed that the creature had stood over him, looked into his soul, and simply walked away. No attack, no violence, only understanding. It became clear that this creature, whatever it was, possessed intelligence far beyond that of a bear or ape. It avoided confrontation, it adapted, and it seemed to understand human behavior enough to evade and mislead. Elena began to theorize that the Yeti was not simply an undiscovered animal but a surviving relic of an ancient hominid species, something closer to humanity than to bear. In secret communications with colleagues around the world, Elena pieced together similar reports, ancient myths of snow beings, forest guardians, mountain watchers. From Tibet to Mongolia to Siberia, the stories shared common threads. A pale giant, part beast, part man, protector and terror in equal measure. Paul's genetic analysis grew more detailed as he isolated unique markers in the Yeti's DNA. It was a distinct species, perhaps related to Gigantopithecus, the giant ape believed extinct for hundreds of thousands of years. But it wasn't purely ape. Its genome carried traces of another lineage, one remarkably close to Neanderthals. The Yeti was a hybrid, the last of its kind. Elena faced a choice: reveal everything and risk the Yeti's destruction, or conceal the truth and protect it. She chose a third path. Using the footage and DNA evidence, she crafted a carefully curated scientific paper, one that confirmed the existence of an unknown hybrid creature but omitted critical location data and behavioral details. She presented it at a closed symposium of trusted scientists. The reaction was mixed: awe, skepticism, anger, envy. But Elena didn't care. The real victory was in the cautious alliances she built that day, ensuring that future studies would be conducted under the strictest ethical protections. Meanwhile, the Yeti remained hidden, safe in its misty sanctuary. Months passed. Elena's health suffered from the extreme conditions she had endured, and she returned to civilization to recover. But the experience had changed her forever. She found herself dreaming of the creature, not as a beast, but as a lonely guardian, clinging to survival in a world that no longer had a place for it. Rumors abounded online, of course. Grainy clips leaked, and conspiracy theories flourished. The government of Nepal issued vague statements about wildlife protections. Tourists flooded the region, but none found anything more than footprints and hearsay. Elena had done her work well. Then, a letter arrived. It was unsigned, written in careful English, and delivered by hand to her remote home. You looked into our eyes and chose peace. For that, you are welcome should you return. The mountains remember. Elena stared at the letter, heart pounding. How could it be? Was it a hoax? Was it real? Deep down, she knew the truth. The Yeti mystery was solved, not in the way the world had expected, not with a carcass dragged into a museum or a trophy photo. It was solved in the quiet understanding between two species, an ancient pact renewed in the mist and silence of the eternal mountains. And some mysteries, she realized, were never meant to be paraded before the world. Some mysteries were meant to be protected, treasured, and honored in their secrecy. She packed her bag once more. The mountains were calling, and this time she would answer.